Is Nick Champagne your real name?
We held an Emirates Plane for 45 minutes while their jet was getting back to Athens.
People want to appear to be sort of the old money.
I think we were 9 hours behind or 10 hours behind. So it was, 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning in California when I'm dealing with this.
As we've learned in the past, sometimes you have to fire your clients.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. As I said to you in previous videos, we're going to be doing a lot more collaborations with people within the luxury world, and I'm really pleased today to have my good friend with me, Mr. Nick Champagne. Also, probably one of the best names I've ever heard. Nick is the CEO and founder of Status Luxury Group, SLG, as they're also known, and he's been making a lot of big waves in the luxury world for a long, long time. So, welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Frank. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, firstly, is Nick Champagne your real name?
Nick Champagne is not my real name. My real last name is 11 letters and 5 syllables that no one says or spells properly my whole life. So Champagne fit, and we went with it.
I always thought it was your real name until you told me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's stuck with me for the past 20-ish years, so.
It's brilliant.
It's much easier.
Have you changed your name to actually?
Haven't legally, no.
No, but just everyone knows you as Mr. Champagne.
Yep.
And that's all you drink as well.
That's right. Not all, but mostly.
Not all, mostly.
Prefer. Over the years, based on my background in hospitality, working with champagne brands, working with a lot of friends and clients that love champagne, and bought a lot of champagne both in venues, nightclubs, restaurants, but also collectors, just kind of stuck. And just the champagne life stuck. The whole lifestyle of it and what it stands for, and probably the complexity as well, and specificity is really interesting to me, especially with my business being in the luxury arena.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit more about, obviously I've worked with SLG in the past, and SLG has put this for the wonderful Atlantis de Royal, as well as our trip in Vancouver earlier in the year, but can you tell us a bit more about SLG and the story behind it?
Sure. So I started SLG, my background's in hospitality. I started SLG, it was called Status VIP Services, 19 years ago in 2005. And it was a quote-unquote concierge company of sorts dealing with all things luxury. And it started out as nightlife hosting, access to the unattainable items. And as it progressed, we went into high-end travel and experiences, and really refined it from that nightlife stigma of the beginning. And working with high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, also the brands that patronize them and the brands that they support, and it just clicked. Best of the best of everything.
Yeah. And do you still do the original sort of nightlife stuff that you used to, or have you?
We haven't in a while. We have all the relationships with all the owners, all the management basically around the world, but it's an industry that's evolved very, very differently than it used to be 20 plus years ago. And we've gone with that, but our clientele has evolved. We work with a lot more families now, whether it's aligning with a brand or a service or a product that's emerging or existing and known as a pinnacle type brand. We'll throw that in with a partnership.
Yeah, it must be really hard managing, obviously, especially with people's different expectations and price points and things.
Well, the good thing is a lot of times people think they know what they want, and they think they know what's good. And again, we have a really good understanding of that. So when we introduce new things and sample things to people, and example, bottle of champagne, it's a brand you haven't heard of, very good champagne, you're going to love that one. And it's not something that was on your radar. No,
well, I can't wait to drink it with you. So you think the secret to, one of the secrets of the success of SLG is really understanding and knowing what the customer wants?
It is. It's a lot of psychology. I didn't realize that as much as it is until recently, in the past probably 5-ish years, the importance of psychology and really digging deeply and understanding what people want, asking the right questions. We're both part of a Tony Robbins group, right? So a lot of the things that I've learned from that group, I already knew many of them. However, I didn't understand the reason that they worked. And it really tied together a lot of things for the psychology, the meaning, the quality of questions about how we intake our clientele. When we build a profile for them, the questions that we ask, the pattern recognition, all these things that I'm repeating, I can't believe it, but there's value to that. And I was doing this anyway, I just didn't understand why it worked as well as it does.
Yeah, ask better questions, get better answers.
Right.
The years you must have created tons of incredible experiences for your clients. Is there one in your mind that really sticks out, something that you've organised, something that you can't believe that you've done, or that's super crazy?
I get this question so much about, what's the most outlandish thing?
Oh, I thought it was a unique question.
Requests and all these things. And there's a lot of things that we do that are quote unquote impossible. However, the one that really stands out, I think, is some years ago, it was probably about 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And we curated a trip for 2 families in Greece, in Mykonos. And, best of the best, right? Best hotels, villas, all that fun stuff on the island. They had a great trip. They were very happy with everything, and it was on the way back where something happened with their jet, and I still don't know the reason. The reason doesn't matter. It was the outcome of fixing the situation. The jet was late. The jet was still in Athens when it was supposed to be in Mykonos to get them back to Athens for an Emirates flight. So there was 8 people traveling in Emirates business, and they're pretty late. Again, like I said, the jet is still in Athens when it's supposed to already be in Mykonos. And you've been to Mykonos, the jet slots there. Every year it gets tighter and tighter.
Yeah.
Bottom line, we held an Emirates plane for 45 minutes while their jet was getting back to Athens. Got them escorted through the airport, and we've done a lot of cool stuff that I'm really proud of that was quote unquote impossible. But this was the one that I had to fight all the way through it to believe it myself that it was happening.
That is crazy.
And it comes down to psychology again. I thought about what if they don't get on? Like, even though it wasn't my fault, it was the broker or the operator or whomever, but it was me, my company, that chose that broker, chose that provider. So pointing the finger does no justice. It was saying, we're here now, we need to fix it. This is the outcome we're looking for. And seeing that through was a very challenging couple hours from when we knew the challenge to getting to the outcome. And getting those text messages that they were on the plane, not only were they on the plane, but their luggage made the plane too, was...
That is incredible.
Quite a euphoric feeling of achievement. And it's...
How do you even go about doing that?
Man, just... I'll relive that a little bit. I mean, you get really resourceful. You make every phone call you have to, from really digging in to the, Emirates escalated to as high as you can, to the mayor of, certain places in Greece, to the owner of the airport, to, it's all hands on deck.
And you managed to get through to all of these people?
Oh, yeah. By the way, I was in California, I was in San Diego at the time, so the time difference was quite an interesting range.
Yeah.
I think we were 9 hours behind or 10 hours behind. And so it was, 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning in California when I'm dealing with this. And it was unexpected. It wasn't, you plan things properly. It doesn't mean they're going to go according to plan. So there's always a variable that happens. Somebody makes a mistake or whatever the case may be. And it wasn't because of any bad planning, but it was real and it happened. So it was a ride.
That is absolutely incredible. I mean, the family must have been impressed. And you probably saved. I mean, obviously
they
weren't
spoke
impressed
about
their
it
jet
for a
wasn't
long time, and they're tough to impress. Let's put it that way. And for probably 6 months after, one of them specifically, in every introduction, he told that story, and that was fulfilling, and it was a great segue to referrals from him. He's a very prominent person in real estate, and so the fact that he's our client and our friend is big enough. The fact that he has this standout story that's so exceptional, that really left a mark, and that's his go-to to introduce, really holds a lot of weight.
Yeah, for sure. That's one way to create a raving fan culture with your clients. So
Absolutely.
That is honestly one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
Apart from when I was flying back from Athens, although my plane was held up, turns out it was you.
I feel like it's something to that magnitude I have to do again, because you're only as good as your last, right? And that was a few years ago, so
it's true.
You have to keep it interesting. And keep people talking.
Yeah, you can't live on the laurels of that one forever.
Yeah. So we'll do some more cool stuff, but yeah.
That is absolutely incredible. That is one of the best things I've ever heard. Obviously, you're dealing with ultra high net worth individuals and people who expect the best of the best, as we've covered. And obviously things can go wrong, like the jet story we were just talking about. How do you handle all of these situations and the pressures behind the job? Surely it must be stressful.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's certainly not for the faint of heart. And this to me is a fundamental challenge in the luxury industry, even at the highest level. Even before the pandemic, but especially since the pandemic, there's been challenges with the best of the best providers, whether it's a hotel or a jet company or an airline. It's honestly, the quality of service is just not the same, and the expectations are still very high from the clients, and the prices are 30% more, double, triple. It's misaligned to me. So again, it's not for the faint of heart, and it really is more psychology and stress management. There is certainly a meditative component that goes into it, which I'm glad I discovered. And to have that peace of mind and to recenter matters, but also to manage expectations. It's really, there's always a cycle and a constant shift of trends and meeting expectations. So if you think about 2020, most people weren't traveling that much, or they were traveling short distances, or they were coming here to Dubai or maybe to Miami. Those are literally two of the places in the world that were still operating. So people were just happy to be able to go somewhere. When it became, 2021 was still a lingering challenge. 22 and 23, though, was explosive. And that's when things changed, because prices shot up insanely.
Yeah.
And you would have your best clients that have expectations because they've been going to the same place for 5 or 10 or 20 years, sometimes even more with their families since they were children, and they had what they were used to, and that was no longer the case, and they had to adapt. They were saying, why can't I get this, presidential suite in Italy, in the coast during the season? I've had it for the past 5 years or 20 years, and the answer is the hotel says, oh, well, we got an offer for double, so we took it. That's not fantastic. So that's a challenge, and you have to find a way to deal with that, and you find a way to provide something as good or better, and you leave them happy, right? And knowing that either way, it's not the end of the world. If you have the commitment to deliver and over-deliver and leave somebody with a smile and a good feeling, even if it's a bumpy road and there's a little bit of twisting and turning, uncertainty, misalignment along the way, as long as they ended happy, they remember that.
So you've been in the business of luxury for over 20 years. How have you seen things change from back then to now?
Great question. So luxury and hospitality were basically in my blood, based on things that, like my family owned restaurants and liquor stores when I was younger. And it wasn't even the most luxurious of them, but I, for whatever reason, found a way to find in the liquor store the Dom Perignon or the Perrier Jouet or the Opus One or whatever the case may be. Those things jumped out. I remember when Grey Goose was introduced and things of that nature. So that stuck with me. And when I started my career, over 20 years ago, I became obsessed with learning these things and seeing the trends and spotting the trends before they happened. So everything is a cycle. Everything is always a cycle. You see things come in and out of style. Luxury is no different, right? And especially now with technology, with social media, with influencers, etc. Someone says something's cool, good, great. It could be a property, it could be an item, it could be a car, a watch, a shoe, a bag, whatever it is, and that's hot for a minute. A brand, whatever the case may be. And then it goes through a cycle, and maybe it's not anymore. And then you have the mainstays that withstand the storm. The Chanels of the world or the Louis Vuittons of the world. They're not going anywhere. They're always going to reinvent themselves. So staying on top of that is very, very important. Same thing with auto brands, watch brands. You look at what I consider the big three in your business, right? Rolex, Patek, and AP. Those are the three, right? Of course, there's others that are building themselves. Richard Mille, there's You know, someone can argue Jacob and Company. You can say some others, Hublot, this and that. But to me, it's those big three that really stand out, that have been around for a long, long time, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of heritage and respect of the heritage of those watch brands. But there are some, newer brands like FP Journe, which makes some incredible pieces.
Right.
With great
And
heritage.
they've been at it and escalating for a long time.
Yeah.
Before they really got that traction. And again, to hear someone like yourself give them the respect and the credibility that they probably deserve.
Oh, most definitely.
Right? But they've been working towards earning that for a long, long time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would see their ads in, whether it's Robb Report or DuPont Registry or something like that, for decades.
Yeah, yeah.
And or in airline magazines or whatever the case may be, as they're working towards breaking into an expert like yourself, giving them that level of respect and credibility.
Yeah.
And also collectors buying them, whether it's because you suggest it or because it's something that interests them because of the movement or the style or anything else. And while we're talking about watches, that's true for anything. It's true for an automobile brand. It's true for a fashion designer. It's true for a real estate developer or any other sort of thing. It's very discerning clientele is influenced by certain things. Part of it is the product or the brand. Other is the perception of what that means. And what that Hermes belt or that Birkin bag mean.
A lot of it can be quite significance driven as well.
Absolutely.
With certain styles of watch or bag or car, you can definitely see the significance element in that.
And then there's that understated luxury as well, which is very popular now, which is that a good thing or a bad thing? You look at your Loro Piana, you look at your other brands.
Quiet luxury's become loud luxury.
Yeah, and why is that? Because it was showcased somewhere, and then it caught attention, and then it was, there's plenty of money out there to jump onto a trend. Is it a trend or is it a fad? Or is it a mainstay now? We'll see. The Brunellos and such, are they've always been in certain circles, but now they're more popularized and commercialized. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I feel it's a lot with the way that quiet luxury has become loud luxury, is people want to appear to be sort of the old money wealth whisperers rather than shouts, and I think that's what people are trying to perceive themselves as with this, but you can see right through it. But I mean,
and it's going to be interesting if you look forward and ahead, are those brands going to engage? So if you look at, great example is Lamborghini and even Rolls-Royce, the whole crypto boom, as it went through cycles, and a lot of people that are new money in that space, what did they do? They ran out and bought a Lamborghini, or Rolls-Royce,
and a Richard Mille.
Those were and those are the two from automobiles that stood out. But you didn't see them buying Ferraris.
No,
it's not that Ferraris are not amazing automobiles, but they keep it tighter and have more brand integrity. So that's an interesting trend.
Crypto, when Lambo, that was the whole.
Exactly that, when Lambo.
So obviously we've discussed how it's sort of changed in the past. Where do you see the future of luxury travel, luxury experiences? And do you think there's going to be some big shifts and changes with the prominence of AI in the future?
I think it's partially based on expectations, but embracing technology has value. AI is very important. Being on the right side of it's very important. I feel pretty strongly about a couple points there. One is that the biggest fundamental challenge in the luxury space right now is finding good help, finding people that are passionate and willing to provide services. When you think about the hotel concierge at a St. Regis or a Peninsula or a Plaza or a Dorchester from many years ago, these are people, men and women, who took pride in their job and wanted to be there for decades and decades and decades. And they were proud of that. It meant something to say. Now people don't want to put in the work or the time, they want instant gratification. Technology is part of that, exposure is part of that. So one of the things, robots and AI, I look forward to that because there's going to be a lot of unhappy people that are lazy that get replaced. And that will help owners like us to provide better service, being on the right side of utilizing them. On the flip side, I don't think that there's a substitution for great hospitality. And maybe I'm wrong 5 or 10 or 20 years from now, we'll see. But is a robot going to be able to provide the same sort of understanding talking to somebody and absorbing and processing information to really know, as I said way earlier in the conversation, understanding someone deeply, asking the right questions and processing that quickly and over delivering, is that going to be the case? AI might be able to help someone to process that information and then use strategic critical thinking to deliver. I don't know if a robot's going to be able to do that on its own.
I agree with that. Also, I don't know if I'd want a robot concierge.
Right.
Is he going to be part of the cleft door?
Right.
That's the thing.
Correct. And the same thing, again, you look at it from that perspective, and I think you're exactly right. The other thing is, you look at travel and you look at all the online OTAs, online travel agencies, the Booking.com and Priceline and Hotel Tonight and all these others, and they're great, right? They're great if you're just looking at price. You're not getting the best service, period.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you book with them, you might find a great deal. Guess what? If the hotel that overbooks, guess who's getting bumped first and walked to a different hotel? Regardless of the level of hotel. Could be mid-level or the top level. Especially if it's the top level. You're not getting amenities. Unfortunately, you're not getting treated as well. You're not getting the extras. And that's by design. So there's people who are cost conscious. They're not as much our target clientele or our ideal client as someone who is willing to pay a premium for quality service. So you know what? I know I'm paying a little bit more. However, if I change my mind, something goes wrong, I add a guest, I have an extenuating circumstance, I know that the change, the adjustment, the increase is going to be welcome, and you, the company or the service provider, is going to over-deliver.
Yeah. I often find that the sort of more affluent clientele, and in my business, I'm selling a watch for sort of 200,000 as opposed to a watch for maybe 1,000. I find the more expensive, obviously the wealthier client, I find them a lot easier to deal with.
All the time?
Not all the time, no.
Right.
But someone.
But that's good. You have a choice.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the more that you build your brand, your image, you have choices. I've dealt with some of the best people in the world perceptually, and I wasn't happy dealing with them because they were never happy.
Yeah.
They would ask for this, we would give them this, and they still weren't satisfied. They would find something wrong with it. Whether they paid a lot for it, overpaid, underpaid, it didn't matter. They were just never able to be pleased. And that's a no-win for anybody.
Yeah.
They're not happy, we're not happy, my staff is not happy, they're not giving a referral. If anything, they're giving a complaint, even when you over-delivered. It's a no-win.
Yeah.
So to have the option to choose or not choose that client is great for us.
As we've learned in the past, sometimes you have to fire your clients.
Absolutely. It's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And when you have the confidence to do that, again, psychology comes into play because then you see what their reaction is, and it's a game sometimes. And when you have the ability to stand strong to that, whether it's even the self-love and self-respect, or the ability in business to be at a certain level to say no, then it's when you're really clear about who your ideal client is, and what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept, and you stick with that, the future's brighter that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now let's talk about some watches. Obviously, I'm in the watch business, and we've spoken about watches all around the world, actually.
Yeah.
One story that you told me has really stuck with me, and that was the Panai story. Could you share that with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I'm really proud of. When you asked about a story that stands out, it actually slipped my mind, but it's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
So this was 5 years ago. Actually, 5 years ago, right about now. It was September, October 2019. And why that's important is because it was right before the pandemic. So we got a request from a similar company like ourselves for one of his clients, and there was a very specific Panai tourbillon that he wanted. And there were only 30 pieces made. And I guess some of the details are slightly confidential, so I'll say what I can in confidence to the brand. Bottom line, there were 30 pieces. They said they were all committed. There was a mistake made where we were promised something, and the company wasn't able to deliver. And the client was upset about it, obviously, and I was concerned because it was my reputation on the line. This was a collaboration of multiple people, and this is where the resourcefulness comes in between our Rolodex and relationships and who we're calling for what. That's probably one of my biggest strengths and superpowers, is knowing who to call to get something done. I don't have the ability personally to do everything and anything, but I know who does, and that's really, really important. So when I got this request, I reached out to, you know, one person who helped me and put me through to the brand. And long story short, when the mistake was made, they came back with what they thought was a solution. They said, hey, we made a mistake. We can't change that. All 30 watches are committed, but we believe we have a solution that your client and collector will really love. And my heart's dropping because I'm thinking, how am I going to get out of this? This is a problem. I said, well, shoot, what do you have? He said, well, we spoke to the watchmaker and they're going to make, or they're willing to make a 00 for you. Now, I thought about that for a second, and it brought me back to a car story from some years before that, where I was with a group of people that were really comparing their unique automobiles, and we're talking about Ferraris and Bugattis and the number one of something, or the number 0 unpainted prototype. And I thought about that, and it really resonated. I said, I think that's really special. It's not my decision to make, but let me reach out to them. I think I could put this through. And they were very excited. We made an experience out of it. And while they wanted the watch immediately, the watch was being built.
Yeah.
So it was this is really interesting. So the promise of delivery date was March 15th, 2020.
Oh, wow.
So think about what happened in March of 2020.
Yeah.
Now this is 6 months after September, October. And so we, signed paperwork, everything, paid, all of it. And fortunately, Panai over-delivered and got the watch done quicker in February.
Oh, wonderful.
And we had it delivered to New York in February. We had it to the client early March, right before the pandemic happened and things got shut down. So it was a real wow moment, and it was something that really stood out. And as you shared, to impress you in that industry, it has to be something that's not an everyday occurrence.
No, it's not something I've ever actually heard of happening before.
Right, and it's this is the thing. Telling this story, it's verified. You could see that it happened. It's not something that may ever happen again. It's not something you're going to do every day, right? So that makes it even more special. Because if you think about,
can't get me a 00 AP, can you?
I mean, everything is possible.
Yeah.
At least one time.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, because you have to be fair, if you're any of those 1 to 30 people, how do you feel when the 00 or the 31 comes out?
Yeah.
And when you're that 00 person, perceptually it's even more special.
Yeah.
Because it didn't exist. It was literally something that did not exist.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting because now 5 years later, I want to follow up on that and see, what the perceived value is. And this is your industry. So what is the perceived value of that? Essentially it's what someone's willing to pay.
Yeah, of course.
Right? But if someone really wants that watch and no one else is selling any of their 30, it's probably that much more.
Yeah, I think the story behind it and the fact that it is 00 probably would make it worth more than the
Absolutely.
rest of them.
Now, I don't think this gentleman is going to let go of the watch anyway.
No.
Because he didn't do it for the money.
Someone ordering a Panai tourbillon is unlikely to,
right.
to be
and
selling that.
especially Panai, right? Because I love the brand. I think it's a great brand. But it's a unique client that likes that watch. It's a very specific look and such. And, it's not your AP or your Patek.
No, definitely not. So you spend your life curating these incredible experiences and lifelong memories for all of your clients. But what would that look like for yourself?
Man, that's a good question. Being in this business, I don't think about myself as much as I do about everyone else. And it's an occupational industrial hazard. If I had to think about that kind of off the cuff, I mean, I prefer a mix of excitement and chill, relaxing, beautiful landscape. If some of my previous employees heard me say relaxing, their heads would explode, because that's a word that we weren't able to use in the company. 'Cause
Really?
It's like, relaxing, what are we going to do 5 minutes from now? our clients are now, right? But it's that balance. It's that balance of excitement somewhere like the Maldives mixed with somewhere, and they're not geographically close, but I love the south of France. You know, I love the excitement of something like the Cannes Film Festival or Monaco Grand Prix. So it would be something where it's that amazing, picturesque Maldives type experience with an exciting event that's a, you know, a Grand Prix experience or a film festival experience that has, you know, the glitz, the glamour, the fun sort of things, Paris Fashion Week, etc. A mix of those things.
Well, that sort of wraps up what I wanted to discuss today. Thank you very much to Nick for coming in. If you want to check out Nick, check him out at statusluxurygroup.com and Status Luxury Group on Instagram. You can see some of the experiences he's done there. I personally, this is the third time I've been away with Nick and his business, and I think it's absolutely amazing, the things that they do. Obviously, you've heard a lot about it on there. So thank you very much, Nick. And if you guys liked that, make sure to subscribe. And if you had any further questions down the line, maybe we'll do another one. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
You too.